Good morning and welcome to the ABA Women Rainmakers Committee quarterly webinar. Today's topic is Women of Legal Tech, the top 10 takeaways. We are so pleased that you're able to join us today. ABA Women Rainmakers presents free quarterly webinars on topics of interest to members of our committee and members outside our committee. These webinars are always free and are a great way to connect with the ABA and ABA Women Rainmakers. We're excited today to be talking about the Women of Legal Tech Summit, which is an event that's been hosted by and sponsored by the ABA Women Rainmakers Committee for the last several years. Our speakers today include Jeannine Abukhater Lambert, Sofia Lingos, Allison Johs, and myself, Courtney Reichard. We will address questions at the end of the presentation, and we will be following up with email to all of you with our slides and a recording of the presentation today. The mission of the ABA Women Rainmakers Committee is to educate professional women about marketing and business development, provide mentoring opportunities for members, and to provide networking opportunities to build personal and professional relationships. The ABA Women Rainmakers is a committee within the Law Practice Division of the ABA. Our committee is open to any Law Practice Division member. We meet on a monthly basis and would welcome you to join us and find out more about our mission and some of our projects, including these quarterly webinars. We've got several upcoming events. Obviously today, we will be talking about the Women of Legal Tech Summit, which will be held virtually on May 4th, 2022, and another session in person during the ABA Law Practice Division Spring Meeting in Nashville, Tennessee on May 11th. The ABA Women Rainmakers Committee meets on the third Tuesday of every month via Zoom at noon Eastern. And as I said, all Law Practice Division members are welcome to join our committee and learn more about what we do. And then we have our quarterly webinars coming up on June 22nd at our normal time of 2 p.m. Eastern is Women in the Law. Then we also have webinars scheduled on September 21st and December 4th with topics to be announced soon. Briefly, our speakers today. First is Jeannine Abukhater Lambert. Jeannine is the Executive Director of Centers and Programming at the Northern Kentucky University Chase College of Law. She administers a number of programs, including the Bruce Lunford's Academy for Law, Business, and Technology, which is a law school honors program focusing on intersection of law, business, and technology, the Center for Law and Entrepreneurship, and Law and Informatics, a Cybersecurity and Data Privacy Center. She's active within her local bar and extremely active within the Law Practice Division. She is the co-chair of the 2023 ABA Tech Show, co-chair of the Women of Legal Tech Summit Committee, and she's also co-chair of the local programming subcommittee within the ABA Women Rainmakers. She's a Palestinian American from Jerusalem, but she's also lived in Kentucky and Ohio and taught English in South Korea. Sofia Lingos is the founding and managing attorney of Trident Legal, a Boston-based law firm for small businesses, entrepreneurs, and startups. She teaches law practice management and access to justice at Northeastern University School of Law. And she's been recognized as an American Bar Association Top 40 Young Lawyer and 2015 ABA Legal Tech Resource Center and Women of Legal Tech honoree. Allison Johs is president of Legalese Consulting, providing marketing, social media, business development, productivity, and practice management coaching for consulting services for lawyers and law firms. She's been recognized by the ABA's Law Practice Division with the Wilkins Award for overall achievement in division publishing for best column in 2019 for her Simple Steps column in Law Practice Magazine. And she's also a 2015 ABA LTRC Women of Legal Tech honoree. She's chair of the LTRC and has served as the chair of the division's book publishing board, on the division's counsel, education board, nominating committee, and on the editorial boards of both Law Practice Magazine and Law Practice Today. And finally, again, my name is Courtney Reichard. I'm Knowledge Management and Information Research Counsel at Nyland Johnson Lewis in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where I've been for the last 25 years. I have experience leading discovery efforts in complex products liability and employment litigation, and particularly in using technology to enhance litigation efficiency and results for corporate clients. I'm also very active within the Law Practice Division. I'm chair of the Women Rainmakers Committee. I'm vice chair of Law Practice Magazine, and also a member of the Law Practice Division Council. I've been active in my local bar as well. I am the former president of the Hennepin County Bar Association, the Hennepin County Bar Foundation, and the ABA's National Conference of Bar Foundations. I'm going to turn things over to Allison to start to give some history of the LTRC and how we came to develop the Women of Legal Tech list.
Thanks, Courtney. Good morning, everybody. Again, my name is Allison Johs. I am one of the co-chairs of the Legal Technology Resource Center, otherwise known as LTRC. My co-chair is Sofia Lingos, and you'll hear from her in a moment. Basically, the Legal Technology Resource Center is an ABA member benefit. It is part of the Law Practice Division. It used to be a separate entity and was brought under the Law Practice Division several years ago. The board of the Legal Technology Resource Center is involved in a lot of different projects. One of them is the Women of Legal Tech honorees, which Sofia will talk about in a minute, but I wanted to give you some idea of what's available to you on the ABA website at the Legal Technology Resource Center. We have publications, blog posts, webinars, all kinds of free resources, but I want to highlight a few. One of the things that's highlighted on the website right now for LTRC is our disaster resources. We still have people who are dealing with whether they're natural disasters or problems with as a result of the COVID pandemic. So there are a ton of disaster resources on the website right now to help you if you are in the unenviable position of having to go through one of those situations with your law firm. One of the other things that we do is the LTRC Buyer's Guide. So if you are looking for technology products and services, and you're looking for a sort of one-stop shop, a place to go to get information about all the different products, whether it's practice management software or billing software, other tools for your practice, take a look at the Buyer's Guide. We also do periodic industry insight webinars. Those webinars are put on by vendors. They are free. You can register for those on the LTRC website. So if you want to get insight a little further into some of these programs, those are great webinars. You get great information even if you don't use that particular product. We also have our blog, which is the Law Technology Today blog, and you can find that at lawtechnologytoday.org. All kinds of blog posts on different technology that you can use in your law firm, the latest and greatest of what's happening. There are some video posts on there. The LTRC board does a roundtable every month on a different topic, and those live on our Law Technology Today blog as well. So you can, excuse me, check those out. And we also do the Legal Technology Survey every year and put out the Legal Technology Survey report, where we survey all kinds of lawyers who are in different practices, different size practices, government practice, private practice, to find out what it is that they're doing with their technology. And then we put out the survey reports. There are several different volumes. And on top of that, the board does what we call our ABA tech reports, where we synthesize some of those reports and give you our thoughts and analysis on what those statistics may mean for you and what you can do for your law firm. So check out the ABA tech reports as well. And then we like to highlight some of our technology books. So you can see on this slide, we have all kinds of technology books. Those are actually written by or handled by our publications board, but we do like to highlight them on the Law Technology Today blog and the LTRC Center, so that you can see what technology books are available to you. So things like QuickBooks, paperless, World Docs, all kinds of different technology books that are available for you to look at. And then one of our favorite projects is being involved with the Women of Legal Tech Summit and the Women of Legal Tech honorees. So I will let Sofia talk to you a little bit about our honorees and how that came to be.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to join you to talk a little bit about how the Women of Legal Tech came to be. And I love that we've got this picture that we are seeing Heidi Alexander, who is actually the founder of the list. And Heidi actually came up with this idea in response to a comment when she wasn't seeing representation of women speaking about legal technology. And someone had said, you know what, there's just not a lot of women in legal tech. To which she responded, au contraire, my friends. In fact, let me help you with that. And she founded this initial list that we were able to publish through the Legal Technology Resource Center to really give it the notoriety it needs to be that one-stop shopping to say, actually, there are many women involved in the world of legal technology who can be on panels and who can be speakers, and really started founding this community. And so we have Heidi to really thank for bringing that forwards. Now going into 8 years, this turned from a list into the summit. We have Jeannine joining us today, we're joining Jeannine today, who we have to thank for actually the creation of the in-person aspect, as opposed to just being able to honor those individuals on the list. Jeannine really took that into a whole nother level with the creation of the summit, where we could go and have these in-person experiences, opportunities, and made it into what the summit is today. What the process is, and we are in the middle of the process, the final selection of the 2020 honorees. But to track it for the future, what we do is on the LTT website, we actually open it up for nominations and we receive hundreds. There are so many amazingly talented women out there who deserve this recognition and to be honorees on the Women of Legal Technology list. And if you watch for next year around January, you'll see the opening for nominations. And now we're down to the finalists, where we'll be letting those individuals know pretty soon who's been selected for the 2022 list, and then have the opportunity at the Women of Legal Tech Summit to recognize those honorees and watch this list continue to grow. We're hundreds of women now that are on this list, as we increase every single year as we get these great new people. And it's really become a community. And it's not just the community of those who've been honorees and recognized on the list, but it's a community of the people who engage throughout the year, who join and meet at the summit and have those relationships ongoing. So it's a pleasure to be here today, and thank you for having us.
Sofia mentioned the Women of Legal Tech Summit has been a terrific way to bring together women of legal tech honorees and other women and men who want to support women in legal tech. So it started as a way to honor the Women of Legal Tech honorees, as well as to create a space and community for us to talk about solutions. How do we get more women in legal tech? The first summit was held in 2018, and from 2018 to 2020, we were graciously hosted by the Chicago-Kent College of Law. It's a beautiful facility in Chicago. It was held the day before ABA Tech Show, which is always in Chicago. So it was a great opportunity for people coming to town for Tech Show to come a bit early and join us for the summit. The in-person event has featured keynote speakers, including ABA presidents and women who've really made a tremendous impact in the legal tech world. We have Ignite sessions, which are very, very popular. We'll talk a little bit more about that process, but essentially it's a 7-minute time slide presentation. And that's really what we're going to be talking largely about today. Those are really the impactful takeaways that people have remembered and have really provided great fodder for that group then to talk and work in networking groups and workshops about where to take things next. And of course, we honor the women that have been added to the Women of Legal Tech honoree list. In 2021, of course, we were forced to be virtual, but that virtual session actually had some hidden gems or silver linings. We really learned that by being virtual, that allowed many more women to participate in our programming. And so we've decided for 2022, and again, Jeannine will give a lot more information about this, but in 2022, we are planning a hybrid event where there will be a virtual component as well as an an in-person component in Nashville, Tennessee. So we are changing our venue and we're changing our time of year. We will now be holding the event in conjunction with the ABA's Law Practice Division spring meeting. But it's been a wonderful, energizing. It's just one of those events that people always walk away from saying, I've learned so much, I've grown so much, and people want to attend year after year. So it's been a fabulous experience and really a way to take this Women of Legal Tech honoree list, which in and of itself is really impactful, into a whole nother level in terms of impact on the legal technology community.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jeannine Abukhater Lambert. First, I have a bird. I have a canary, and I'm having to do this from home today as opposed to the office, which was the plan. So the canary might sing, might sound like a cricket, or he might just full-blown opera. I don't know. So I apologize for that ahead of time. And I also apologize to anyone who has a fear of birds, because I have a friend who does, and that's rough during our meetings. So that may interrupt eventually. So yes, so thank you to everyone. It's been a really big collaborative process because, the Women of Legal Tech honoree list started with Heidi Alexander and LTRC in 2015. And then in 2017, my colleague, Bob Fernier, who is with the ABA and who brought me into the ABA as well, we started talking about an actual event not only recognizing Women of Legal Tech honorees and Women of Legal Tech in general, but talking about addressing the big, elephant in the room that so few, and you'll hear later on, people talk about the percentages of so few of the legal tech startup founders are women, the difficulties getting funded, difficulties in the community, maybe in the lifestyle, various reasons that it hasn't been an environment where women are able to thrive as well. So that's what the summit was about. It was about the idea of recognize our list. Let's recognize these amazing women who have done incredible things across the country, some even internationally. At the same time, let's talk about how we can make changes and build community. And like I like to say, when we were in Chicago, the ideas that we were throwing pebbles into the lake, and it should have a ripple effect. And when you leave Chicago and back home, go back to Kentucky, Ohio, Arkansas, Florida, California, that you will then be able to take some of that, implement it into your daily life, affect your community, and we can start seeing changes in kind of the Women of Legal Tech status. So this coming year, yes, we are doing something different. Our last year virtual was so good that we wondered if we should even come back in person, because we had such a wide range of audience. We had more speakers participate who couldn't come to Chicago otherwise. We had amazing talks. We had great workshops. We had small group discussions. The networking was still great. So we debated whether or not we were ever going to do in person again. And then we decided that we love the in-person component to it, and still actually meeting the person who's your favorite on Twitter that you've been following for 5 years and you've never actually met in person. Like, that's a big thing that happens in the summit. Everyone is a Twitter fan of everyone else. And so they just walk up and say, I'm a huge Twitter fan of you, and here's my name. And they follow each other. So it's that kind of thing. We wanted to keep that part. So what we did is we are going to have a 2-part conversation. We're going to have a virtual conversation on Wednesday, May 4th. May the 4th be with you. I'm sure someone will make a joke about that in the presentation, as I am doing right now. So that'll be Wednesday, May 4th in the afternoon, Eastern time into late morning Pacific. And we'll have a series of presentations and remarks from our Women of Legal Tech honorees list, which will be announced in the next few weeks. So they will be present online and speaking, as well as we have the Ignite sessions that Courtney mentioned. The Ignite sessions, we're still taking, by the way, speaker submissions through Monday, I believe, is the deadline for call for speakers for the summit. So if you have any inclination, go ahead and send a proposal in. The Ignite sessions for speakers are very fast. They're 7 minutes. It's like rapid fire slides. They're timed. Everyone thinks I'm the mean person in the back of the room clicking through it, but I'm not. It's on an automatic timer. It's not my fault that you started talking a little bit more and got into it and your slide moved on without you. So it happens all the time. It makes for a really interesting and fast-paced talk. And you essentially just have, a chance to get one big idea out there. One big idea as to how we can close this gender gap, how we can support more women in legal tech, how we can make changes in our culture. So, and in the workplace. So that is what we will be doing. So we're doing that online. And the the first half of the conversation. And then the following Wednesday on May 11th, to kick off the Law Practice Division's semi-annual meeting, we will do an in-person component. That'll be from, I think, noon to 5 Central Time, because we'll all be in person in Nashville, Tennessee. So we hope if you are within driving distance that you just decide to drive in and stay with us for the day. We hope that if you want to fly in, you know, what we are going to be able to do is you can stay and participate in more of the Law Practice Division spring meetings. My email is on there. I am happy to talk one-on-one with anyone who has questions, wants to know more about it, wants to get more involved. That's how this committee came together, is we just put out, who wants to get involved, and then people who came to the summit would reach out, and we've talked, and it's a committee formed, and now it's evergreening. So I will step off after this. Courtney and I are stepping off after this coming summit, and it will be time for the next co-chairs to take up the banner and do these webinars. So you'll get to see other people now after all these years. So that will be the in-person, and we'll continue with the same idea of recognizing the Women of Legal Tech honorees and having more fun Ignite sessions and watching the slide keep going. As I'm not sure that I can do it as you're talking, like it just keeps running through. So, all right, I'm going to try and play a video. We'll see if it works or not, of just a little trailer that we had made of the summit for anyone who has not been able to attend.
Others to come in.
Maybe I'll play it from the beginning.
We are zooming into Tech Show because of what we do here.
There's no sound coming off of the video.
So it's not working. Is that what's happening?
I think you have to be unmuted for it to go through.
My bad. Okay, sorry. I'll start again.
Here, the community that's being created for others to come in.
As women, we're encouraging each other. We're fighting the fight. Every one of you in this room is a warrior.
I think we're at a moment of profound social change in which technology and globalization and the need for cross-cutting knowledge are foundationally changing the practice of law. And I think most law schools aren't figuring it out very well. With a new mindset, we lawyers will advance to keep pace with the times.
So a lot of times when we come in as women, and sometimes minority women, we come in scared that I don't know everything. It's okay. I don't know everything right now, but I have the ability to figure it out.
And so it's so important that we tell our daughters and the young women in our life that they can do anything. And we continue to build this community, and that next year we have, just as many men as we do women in this room who support this cause altogether.
We are.
So as you can see, that is some examples of what we had in a couple of years ago in our talks. And it really is, as Courtney said, a big environment of energy, of excitement, of people getting together and saying, let's collaborate. Let's talk about what you're doing in your work, what I'm doing in my work. It's a great meeting place for those kinds of sparks and ideas to come out. So when we try to create an environment where that is promoted as well. So that's just an example. So we hope that you were able to join us for the virtual and even the in-person as well for a two-part thing. So now I'm going to go into our top 10 takeaways over the past now 5 years. Well, we're on our fifth summit is coming. So over the past 4 years, our top 10 takeaways, the things that we can't get out of our head. I think about them fairly often. It's pretty funny. So, and I've asked everyone here and as my co-speakers, co-presenters, to just chime in with their memories and thoughts as well. So feel free to jump over anything I'm saying. So we had last year on the virtual, we did a new program where we had actually a panel of 3 judges who approached us. And these are really fascinating women. They made a tech revolution in the largest trial court in the world. So their presentation was called Rosie the Pivoter, which was pretty clever. And it's Judge Samantha Jessner, Judge Michelle Williams Court, and Judge Amy Yerke in Los Angeles Superior Court. And they took, let me show you what they had to deal with here. They took a court that had those phones on my left. That was everyone's phone. And then they had to train everyone to use the phone on the right. And there were some interesting stories about judges not realizing that you're on video when you're on the phone, and you should give a certain perspective and don't stand. And there's just all kinds of things you have to think about that, when you're on video that you don't otherwise. So it took a lot of training and work and effort. And I'm amazed they were even able to do it at all, frankly. Their motto was, if you're going to use it, you should help build it. So they built a team. They got everyone in. They met with, we'll talk about how they met with customers and attorneys who use the court, but they also talked with the clerks and the staff and the judges, and they got everyone's buy-in. They went through extensive training, frequent. They were on call. Anyone could call them and say, I can't figure this out. And they would help them out as well. So it was very much an all hands on deck, fully immersive process for everyone. And that kind of helped them move everything through. So they took Steve Jobs' quote about working backwards from what the customer needs, working backwards to what you create, which is, as if you're familiar with it, a design thinking philosophy as well. That you design based on the need and the problem, and then you find the solution, as opposed to saying, hey, here's a great way to have this. So what they did is they talked with people who use the court, with the attorneys, with the people coming in to use court services. And they found out what they needed, what the inefficiencies were, what problems were, one of which were the lines around the block. If anyone has had to go to the court and not been an attorney for it, being paid, what you have to do is take a whole day off work sometimes for a 2-minute process. And it's just because of and you can imagine in Los Angeles, this is the largest trial court in the world with the numbers they had. And they moved it to this, they automated processes, they created efficiencies. And now you can actually get to someone quickly, maybe get back to work that day. So that was a really interesting panel with that group, and they did just revolutionary work. So we heard from them. So that was one of my big memories. If anyone has a memory or thought about that, you can shout it out anytime.
Well, I do think, I remember that presentation really well, also Jeannine, and, we were all the way, sort of already into the pandemic, but I think even now looking back a year later, how well they did to cope in the beginning. And I think we're all seeing in courts around the country now how those changes, many of them will be permanent, which I think is really a wonderful thing for our court system and our system of justice. So will be very interesting to hear from folks in that realm of courts and court technology in coming years about how they can continue to innovate and continue to be able to support the access to justice. And as well as, just for, I will say as a practicing attorney from a very selfish perspective, the practice of law and the way that becomes more efficient as well when you're not having to go to the courthouse for a 10-minute hearing and instead can handle that from your office.
I can't imagine how the trial court would have handled the pandemic had those judges not just switched them over to be at least tech competent, not savvy, but they would have had to shut down because there's no Zooming on those phones. So.
No, for sure.
All right, so Stephanie Solera is someone who actually spoke twice at the summit, and she is Deputy General Counsel at Numerator, a tech company in Chicago. And Stephanie addressed kind of what it was like to be sometimes the only woman in the room or on the floor, and definitely the only attorney. So she had the department, and be careful not to be the Department of No in her job, but had that kind of fine line walk between, tech company and a different workplace and work style culture, and being an attorney and being, the one who is managing your risk. So she talks about being the expert in the room. And she points out that everyone in that room is a huge expert. I think that's actually maybe her company, either the current one or one before. And everyone in there is an expert in IT or tech or the product they're creating. And you have to remind yourself, and we do this sometimes, is, it's an issue, maybe more with women, that we are also an expert. You are a subject matter expert in the law or in whatever trade you are bringing to the table. And so you have just as much of a voice in that room as anyone else. She talked about it's important really to share your knowledge. You build a team, and this will be a theme throughout the entire webinar here. You'll see everyone talks about building a team, sharing your knowledge. What you do is you build allies, and you build people who are going to come and help, and when you need them, and you'll help them in return. So you're building a cohort. And that, like I said, the cycle of knowledge just builds trust. So these are, I forgot to say, these are slides pulled from presentations. So that's why you see it'll be a graphic in a little bit, because that's how this Ignite session styles are. And then use your network. Everyone here has a network. Even if you're a hermit, somehow you end up having a network. It's just out there. You're required. Somehow your biology calls to other people. So use your network, build your team, as we've said, from other people. And then sometimes the answer is no. The answer is no. Like, you have to stick with that. You cannot be dissuaded by the pouting and the tantrums and the crying, and you can't try to be everyone's friend. And that was, I think, particularly a big lesson for her to learn at being younger, being, the only female maybe saying no in the room, and it's surrounded by all of these tech geniuses.
I always love this slide.
Yeah.
Actually, and I think the way that it really started out with that whole idea of being the expert in the room, sometimes with imposter syndrome or something else. And speaking of Twitter this morning, I was just looking at a post from someone who was saying, I was sitting in a meeting and I had the individual who was sharing, you really don't understand this. You need to read so-and-so et al. And she looked and moved her name tag over and said, I am so-and-so et al. And so recognizing your worth in that room, and then being able to find your voice and share. And so it's great to hear people sharing their voices at the summit.
Yeah, you'll see that. And that's another theme. And there's one presentation particularly on that exactly. But throughout the years, we've noticed, these are kind of the big takeaways, build your team, share your voice, you're the expert in the room. So that follows. And then we have Mary Vandenack, who also spoke twice, who's very prolific. She's a prolific writer, prolific attorney. And Mary has a slew of tips and tricks. I try to narrow it down to a few, but she's founding and managing member of Vandenack Weaver in Omaha, Nebraska. And as you can see, a winner of multiple awards here, including the Women of Legal Tech honoree list. So Mary talked about, when she did her presentation in 2019, about kind of this surge in what she called high-level dumpings. Women had achieved a certain level in their career and then were being fired and let go. And that's kind of when you least expect it. Maybe when you're younger, you think this might happen, but when you've established yourself for a while, that's when you have more bills, and more responsibilities, and that causes more of an issue. She talked too about, there's still external barriers where women have to walk a fine line between being too assertive, too dominant, or too compliant, too quiet. So I don't know of any men who've said, my husband included, that was an issue for them. They just were able to be who they were and it was fine. But I know that I've struggled with that in the years. And I'm sure you're all shocked if you know me, that there were questions as to whether, I was being too aggressive and too dominant, too assertive. And then we have our own internal barriers, that we think we should just be doing everything. And that's going to be the theme of Mary's talk, is that you only have 100% available. There is not 101. There's 100% is a complete circle. That's all you have. And so you have to really decide and be self-aware. What do you hate doing? What makes you miserable? Now, post-pandemic, a lot of that is simpler. I hate going into Chipotle. So now I am app and pickup. I have so many delivery and pickup apps. I don't want to go in anywhere. I want to quickly move through. If you know me as well, I'm very fast. I'm a fast talker. I'm probably speeding through this presentation too quickly. I'm a fast mover. All of it's quick. So I appreciate that kind of self-awareness, and we just have more things to help us with that now. So here's Mary's picture that I can't get out of my head. It's a little gross, but that's part of the part that I can't get. But it really is just it's a good metaphor that I can, and it has the image, I can have it in my head forever. And I have to remind myself constantly, you only have so much room on your plate. And when you do try and keep adding and adding and adding, things will fall off. And then you will feel, then you have other issues of failure feelings and things like that. So you have to be clear about how much you can take and start prioritizing, dumping, getting rid of. Like if that person had tossed that, I just got a sandwich, toss that off and a couple of the dressings and you might be okay. But that plate is going to collapse before you get to your table from whatever bar that person hits. Really, it's a lot of food. So
Right.
watch out for that.
And as I recall, I mean, I think one of the things that Mary said that made so much sense to me too is you can't make your plate bigger. That's not an option. You don't get to go back for a bigger plate. And so you've got to figure out how to prioritize. We were chatting a little bit before today about the current Supreme Court confirmation hearings and, trying to juggle families and careers and work. And, part of it is that it's saying no. And I think part of it is also not lowering your expectations, but really, feeling like it's okay to be good enough, and that's something that women in particular, I think often feel pressure about and shouldn't. So I've really enjoyed watching that on TV.
I love that plate analogy because the one thing I think we forget is you don't get to decide what falls off if you're being purposeful in what you're selecting. But if you really wanted to eat that pizza or that avocado, it's not your choice what's going to fall to the ground. So being purposeful about what goes on to the plate, so you get to choose the pieces that are going to be there at the end of the day and making sure that that's part of your 100%.
Yeah. The other thing I thought it was interesting, Courtney, that you highlighted that idea that the plate is only as big as it is and you can't make it bigger, but you can go back again, right? So you can say no to something now, and with the understanding that maybe that's something that you want to take on later when something else is off of your plate. And so I think that's why that plate analogy works so well, right? Because things fall off, you only have so much space, but you can intentionally say, I'm not taking the avocado now, but when, maybe my next meal I have the avocado, right? Or maybe when some other project is finished, then I can go back. And so you can say no, and it doesn't have to be permanent, which I think can help some people when they're worried about, well, I really want to do that. No might be just no right now.
I think I'm going to add this conversation to our top takeaways next year and pretend it was a night session, because there are things in here I'm not going to remember. I can go back. Yep. It's only it's somewhat a certain size. And if you don't make the choice intentionally from the beginning, you don't get to choose. You might lose your avocado. That's the only thing you really wanted on that plate. Right. So, because these things,
and I think that goes back to the comment that Sofia, I think, made earlier. Imposter syndrome. Is this something that women are more likely to be afraid to say no? To say, if I say no to this, I'm never going to have this opportunity again, or they're never going to ask me again. And that's something I think, particularly for women, again, in the technology field or any field, to think about. That have the confidence to say, I don't have time for this now. I can't take this on, but I hope you'll contact me again when there's another opportunity.
I can tell you that in my work experience, I can draw a very clear line between the men at this particular workplace saying no and being fine with that, and then the person comes back to them in following years, and the women saying yes to everything, and they're doing quadruple the work because they think, well, this is a good idea, someone should do it, it should happen. But at the same time, what happens is their plate then is overflowing and they're exhausted and they burn out much faster. And that at this particular workplace, it was just very gender line along that exact problem. So, and I advised them to stop, but I didn't take my own advice. So finally, another one of Mary's tips was to be a mentor and support others in the path, women and men, because really what we talk about at the summit as well is mentoring and bringing along more allies, because this is not a me against everyone fight. This is a me, just like the judges in Los Angeles Superior Court, bringing everyone in and saying, here are some issues, here are some things that are happening. You may all have kind of seen that famous Twitter thing where a male attorney and female attorney switched emails, and he got her emails and answered them, and she got his, and he had never been second guessed so much in his career. And they were all the same. They have both the same experience level, same level of the firm, but the female attorney constantly was, pushed back against. So this helped bring an ally on, just to show him, this is what I'm experiencing. You don't see it because you don't experience it. No one's doing it to you, and you aren't in my world. But get into my email and then keep answering the same thing over and over, the same response, and not being heard because it went along generalized. So Hannah Kaufman, who is counsel for strategic initiatives at Lawyers Trust Fund of Illinois, gave a presentation on language hacks for gender equity, and she really talks about the tech startup issue in the division there, and getting funded as women versus male tech company founders. So Kristen Sande, who many of you will be familiar with, who might even be listening now, is a great speaker. She gave her a keynote at the Women of Legal Tech Summit last year. Kristen did a extensive study and published it, showing the kind of the numbers in women of legal tech startup, also in minority startups. And we often reference her percentages and numbers in our presentations and our work. And she found that it is 6-to-1 male to female in legal tech founding, startup founding. And then funders are using different language when they question female founders. So this is directly affecting, this is sometimes conscious, sometimes unconscious bias, directly affects the success of that one female founder versus the success of the 6 male founders. Hannah found, she did a study of venture capitalist questions. You've got 2 different styles. There's promotion and prevention. Promotion are concerning, what's your potential? How big are you going to get? And so there's excitement, and it's a positive question with waiting for a positive response. I'm going to get, bigger than Facebook and take over the world. Like, these are my responses. Prevention questions, which are directed more to women, heavily so, not in a way that you can say, maybe case by case, no, heavily towards women, are about potential losses. Well, are you concerned about your future? Do you have enough? What if something happens? So there's more concern and worry, and that prevents the women from receiving funding. And I think Hannah had some stats. I didn't have them in her presentation of the shockingly low amount of women who are funded. And you can just see really that there are, from Kristen Sande's statistics, that there are 17% of legal tech or tech startup founders are women. So that's probably the number getting funded as well. There are certain terms, that have triggers and have effects and carry baggage with them. Brilliant and genius and rock star. These are more often associated with men. And so when they are in job postings, women don't apply, don't necessarily refer to themselves that way. Sorry about the word again. When they are used in conversation, people are thinking of men more. So you have to be more aware of our language choices. When you are looking to hire someone, you need to emphasize things like dedication, great work ethic, team building, over things like, brilliance and confident and genius and rock star, and things that men tend to be more like, I'm in that category. Women are like, I'm really hard work. I'm not a genius though. So we all do that. And there was a study about when there are, job requirements come out and say for a posting, we'd like these 10 things fulfilled before you apply. Women, and I've seen this, my friends do it, I do it. You want all 10. Like, if I can't check all 10 off, I'm not applying. For men, the number we found was like 4. If they had 4, they were good to go. So I now try to go for 7 as a compromise, because I can feel ethically like I can apply if I've met 7. And so when you're also seeking jobs, be aware of the dynamic. Don't discount yourself just because you see words that make you think you are not qualified. Don't discount yourself because you see 10 qualifications and you probably meet all 10. You just think you only need 7. Don't discount yourself when you see words like brilliant. Think about dedication and how hard work as well.
And for those female founders out there, as an attorney who works with those people, I will say more often I see my female founders who are waiting to actually go seek funding. Will have been going through the process for a long time and they're like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready. My favorite thing to say is you're at no right now. Even if you're afraid of getting a no, until you've asked where you have the potential to get to a yes, you're at no. So another no, it's not getting you any further. You have to ask those questions. Where often I have males who come in at the first thing, all right, we're ready to fundraise. Let's go. And we're like, you're not ready. Let's get something that you're going to be selling. But I find often our female founders are a little bit more reticent. And so definitely embrace that fear and go for it, because you can only get to a yes when you're already starting from no.
That will affect your numbers. All right, so Helen Buchelmels, also Gulgan Buchelmels, she made it easier on everyone because she's Turkish and went with Helen, but I knew her when she was Gulgan. She gave us a takeaway of do something or say something. So she flipped the script on the bystander effect and made it, instead of not so bystander, she was like nuts of bystanders. And she does a much funnier rendition of why this is, but I think she essentially wants you to be nuts about helping others, which she kind of is. If you know Helen, she is an advocate for you in your corner. You see her and she says, what can I do for you? So that she is nuts about bystanding. So the traditional bystander effect is that the more people that are present, the less likely you are to help the victim. And we cannot be that. We cannot be more of a problem of watching issues for women in legal tech and not helping them. So she wants you to be nuts of bystanders. You take action, be direct. If there's a confrontation happening, distract someone, delegate something out, try to diffuse, delay a situation, or maybe document it. If you're seeing something, document it. Say something, do something. And this is Helen's big thing. She really does as well. She praises your work publicly. She says, thank you. She acknowledges it. And that's huge. I was discussing this with someone the other day, and it is not vanity or ego to need to be told you did a great job. It is acknowledgement of your worth and your work. And it is respectful. It is someone saying, I see what you did and the effort this was, and I respect you enough to tell you that it was great work. And I'm going to praise you publicly to everyone, and nominate other women. We have the Women of Legal Tech honorees list. Please put that on your calendar for next year to submit nominations. Flood us with nominations. We are happy to read 500 nominations. There's no reason to stop at 100. We'll go to 5. We'll probably add some more committee members to disperse the work, because that sounds a little intimidating, but do so. Promote women, nominate them for things. Send around our call for speakers, which you'll be getting from the ABA today. For the Women Legal Tech Summit, send that around to everyone you know, and nominate yourself for awards and put yourself in for the calls for speakers as well. So Helen's last thing is do something, anything, but do something. When you see something happening, when you hear something happening, help, don't be a bystander, and then do your own promotion and build your community as well. So Nikki Black took that, what we said, kind of send out your message and shout it. And she made a really clever presentation on amplifying your message. So the takeaway here is to shout from the rooftops. You have to get your voice. You have to be heard. Oh, and sorry, Nikki Black is also, she's a prolific author, cloud computing for lawyers and social media for lawyers, and I think criminal law in New York as well for Thomson Reuters. And she's a legal technology evangelist at My Case. So she pointed out being women in legal tech can be lonely. I mean, we heard the numbers. It's 6-1 for founders, 17%. Stephanie is the only one in the room, Solera. So it can feel very lonely. And when someone said that to Heidi Alexander in 2015 about there are no women in legal tech, they're not out there, well, that's what they feel like. They feel like there's no one else really out there because we haven't yet built a strong enough community. And we are heavily outnumbered. But that's why this summit is so important, and things like the list, because this really builds people together, and social media is a good use for this. Within that, it's not really easy to be heard. You have that fine line of assertive, dominant, too quiet. Which one are you? When's the right situation? Should you speak now? There's so many things running through our head. It's, before we say anything. So how do we amplify the message? And she had some good ideas for that. I just love her bird theme that she really had throughout this. You escape the echo chamber. You get out of a place where all you're hearing is the same thing over and over. Either your own thoughts or everyone else's are just the same. Diversify your life. Find other opinions, other people out there, so that you can have, that's what the summit brings together, is people to collaborate and get ideas and share who wouldn't have maybe met otherwise. Share the love. Bring in teammates. Share knowledge. Like we said, it builds trust. Find people, build your community, and create a tribe. This was a huge part of our summit in 2020. It was our last in-person, the tribe building. People left there with tribes, and they said, I've heard about you. I've been following you on Twitter, or your presentation was great. They talked during a workshop, and they left with a tribe. And that is the point. The point, we will end this presentation with a very well-known summit quote that everyone from 2019 who was there will always remember. But it really is about finding your tribe and using them to ride the waves and spread the word. Like Helen said, go out there, amplify your message, post it on social media, promote people, praise them, thank them, nominate them, and yourself. Put yourself out there as a speaker. So Laura O'Brien, and she's also Brooke Moore, if you know either of them, they co-founded and are co-owners of MyVirtual.lawyer. Brooke is the former immediate past chair for ABA Tech Show. And Laura had this presentation on lifestyle hacks for legal tech. So this was her life before. The traditional practice, it didn't fit. She wasn't happy. It wasn't what she wanted at all. It caused all of this. You've got heart stress, body stress. I definitely understand all four of these images, and all four of them this particular week all come together. So what she did is that I quit. She said, this is not worth it. And then she ran really fast and really hard in the opposite direction and started her own firm of a completely virtual law practice. Because change is coming. It's now, this was, this preceded the pandemic when she brought this presentation up. So now the change is here and is overtaking anyone who wasn't ready and who isn't willing to jump on the train very, very quickly. So with her own virtual law practice, she designs the client service that she wants. Clients are different. They have changed. They are more savvy. They have different needs, different desires. And if you can create your own lifestyle, your own workplace to suit what they need, then everyone is happy. Like Steve Jobs said, and like the judges did, work backwards from the issue is, and then build the product that people need. Use so many efficiency tools. Your smartphone is chock full of ways to make your life easier, or as we talked about at AB Tech Show, too much. You can also quiet it, but there are efficiency tools to use, the most famous of which might be the washer. So these things change the world. People went from spending all day just doing one load of laundry to now I can happily just do 10 in one day, and my life is so much better. I do have 10 loads of laundry. So Tammy Cianbad is business law editor at Wealth Counsel and has her own practice in Houston, Texas. And she had a really, really interesting story about making room at the table or at the front that I hadn't experienced. So I was like, this is great. And I think about this actually pretty frequently. Newly licensed, unexperienced, the difference between her and this particular picture is that she was not naturally bold and confident, like this is where I belong. So what happened is she went to court and she sat in the back in the viewing area because no one at counsel table looked like her. No one said, this is where you should go. And her similarly inexperienced, new colleagues went straight up to the front because they looked like everyone up there. So obviously they had a place at the table. And she was like, where did I miss the memo, the invitation? Where did I miss the invitation? And that's where you can help by having people at the table who look like you and who bring you up. So I won't say this one out but it was really funny when she put it up in the presentation. What Tammy's wanting is for people to be at the front at the counsel table who look like her. So she knows I can be up there. That is a spot for me. I'm not supposed to be in the back. I'm supposed to be at the table. Or if you're at the table, be conscientious of that and bring people up with you, because not everyone just has that natural built-in confidence thinking like, I was born for this because every century in history of time, my people have done well. And then we had the idea of, if the table is rectangle, why don't you just break it and start over? Do something different. There's no need to be hampered by the traditional ideas. The table is where the decisions are made. It's not a physical space. You can make it whatever you want it to be, but you need to be there. You need to go to it. This is, political views aside, a pretty startling picture. You have a lot of people affecting everyone's lives in the country, and you have one woman there. So there's not a diversity of background and opinion for that, for women in that picture. And you think we're making progress because people like to say that. Meanwhile, numbers are going down. And I can tell you this is pre-pandemic. Post-pandemic, we are talking about significant changes for women in the workplace because of the sacrifices we had to make during the pandemic. That table was built in another era, for another lifestyle, for people who had a spouse who's staying at home to raise the kids and create run your whole life for you. Well, that person is me. So I don't have that extra person. So I need a different table now. So if we women could do it, what would we build? We would do some of the different set of values about focusing on equality and liberation. I wouldn't feel freer with my work. We would find clients who share these things, because we all know that some clients, not a good idea, not a good fit for you. Just say no to that. So what would you build is what Darlene ended with. And our final takeaway, this is our fun one that everyone will remember. So Emmy Clint is president and general counsel of Nylant Toys. And at this time, she was CEO and co-founder of her own legal tech startup, Second Law. So if you just stay with, but this is the way we've always done it, then we would still be in caves. So there is some progress in life. We have to consider that things do change, and you have to get out of that mindset. Two major reasons women leave the workplace are this work-life balance, or as this picture shows, work-life chaos, and the workplace culture itself. These are not conducive. That table is not a place you want to be at, and there's no room for you there. So break free. A female beaver is called a bitch. I'm not cursing. I have to say it, otherwise spelling would be silly. It is actually a scientific word for it. So what female beavers do is they swim out in the ocean, and to ride the waves and not be taken out by things, they link arms and hold on. And that is called a raft. So Emmy's point was, go out there and build your raft of bitches and feel support, share love, share knowledge, and join this group, build your tribe, and then bring other people on, share, amplify your message. These are all kinds of our big takeaways from the past 4 years.
Jeannine, I love the fact that there are so many themes that were similar in a lot of these presentations, but yet you could still extract different things from these different presentations. But I think the idea of bringing other people along and turning around and trying to help people and running away from the old paradigms and the old ways of doing things and creating what we want and what we think works for us, and being able to say no to the things we don't want to do. And as you just showed in this last presentation, to the clients that we don't want to handle, they're not the right fit. That's fine. Let somebody else deal with it. But there's plenty out there for us to go and create.
Make it fit the lifestyle you want, as opposed to the other way around, where it forces a lifestyle you don't want.
Well, and seeing all of these memories certainly makes me excited for our 2022 event. And, we are planning, as we said, both a virtual aspect of it on May 4th, And then an in-person on May 11th. We've got a QR code on the slide, but we've also will be sending, of course, information to everybody who registered for today's event to make sure that you know when and how to register. But if you are planning on coming to Nashville or thinking on the fence about coming to Nashville, please consider joining us a day early for this in-person aspect of the event. I think it's going to be very powerful and a wonderful way to revisit some of these old themes and topics and bring them forth. But regardless, please do at the very least join us for our virtual summit, which I think is also going to be equally impactful and will create those kinds of memories and moments. So just as a quick wrap up, thank you so much, Allison, Jeannine, and Sofia, for your time. Please check out our website page at ABA to find up-to-date information about Women Rainmakers and our initiatives. Please feel free to contact me if you've got any interest in helping to plan some of our initiatives, whether it be the webinars, Women of Legal Tech, our publications. We are really excited about expanding our group and expanding our access and reach. So with that, it's 11:30. We made it. Thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time and hope that you found this to be helpful.
Thank you all. And don't forget, the call for speakers is still live until the 28th. You'll get that as well.